15-20 though. And we got our guy, Will Z. Has been should say this, the national media, Will Z. You know what I mean? It's not you're not local anymore. He's national media, Sports Illustrated's own Will Z. What's up, man?
It's going good. I'm just so excited that the season is back. I know it hasn't technically started yet, but the game, the game started, and I was way more excited than I thought I was going to be. Like, especially for preseason and everything, just was so hyped. And just seeing DeMar on the court and how good everything looked, it was just so fun to watch. So I'm trying not to overreact from one preseason game, but it's hard.
Why not? Like, look, we're going to be the greatest offense of all time.
Yep. Again.
70-74 victories.
Oh, more than that.
Okay. All right. Well, you're the numbers guy. I mean, you're the numbers guy.
Can they get to 80?
Get to what?
Can they get to 80?
Man. Come on, Casey. Like that. They're probably going to lose. You know that first game back from the road trip is always tough. So you might lose that one.
They would get to 80, but that India trip is still kind of
no, it's still out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's still out there. And they're going to lose because someone went to Abu Dhabi this year. So just because. Steve Harvey. Yeah, exactly. Well, let's talk about Wednesday's game. You were tweeting like a madman on Wednesday. So excited basketball was back. What was your favorite takeaway?
Some really good stuff. I think the one that stood out to me the most was the second chance points. I know that and the offensive rebounds have been such a huge talking point from Mike Brown and everyone. So they won the second chance points battle 16-0. Only 8 offensive rebounds, but to turn those 8 offensive boards into 16 points is great. And then they got some. I know the very first possession, Sabonis went for the offensive rebound and got fouled going for it, so they got the ball back. That doesn't count as an offensive rebound, but same type of way to get the ball back. So to see that right out the gate was fantastic. Seeing DeMar and the dribble handoff, I know we've all been kind of anticipating how good it's going to look, and it looks just as good as we've all been hyping it up. Like, it looks so easy between him and Sabonis, and I think that probably has me the most excited, especially because they were just running simple flow offense. Like, they weren't running their best stuff, but with that, everything looked so simple with the starters. Role players, a little different, but that's okay. That's a different story.
Yeah, man, I agree with you, man. The dribble handoff with Sabonis and DeMar, it looks lethal. It looks like something that they've been working on. You know what I mean? And like this, that's one of the it's not a misconception because we haven't seen them play in an NBA arena against other teams or whatever, but kind of maybe the misnomer that it's going to take a while for them to get used to each other. They've been playing for, when did the USC video come out? About a month or so. They were out there working together. Then they come here in early September, and the Kings kind of play pickup and all this other stuff. They've done the necessary things as a team, as a group, to kind of prepare themselves as much as possible for the regular season and to be ready to go once the regular season starts. And that's something that I saw a little bit of in that game. And I think it helped with the fluidity of the offense in that game, because it does seem like they've been working together even before training camp to kind of get a feel for each other.
And did you guys see how quick the Warriors were to switch onto DeRozan? So when Sabonis get the ball at like the free throw line or so, DeRozan would come up, take the screen, get the ball, and the Warriors switched it like automatically. It was just their philosophy to guard that action. I don't remember teams doing it that aggressively last year. So I assume that's because of DeRozan, and teams know that he's going to take and make that shot. But that opens up so much for Sabonis inside to either roll or to kind of let it play out, spread back out, and get him a mismatch inside. Like, it opens up so much more for Sabonis too, not just DeRozan hitting that shot. But I'll be interested to see how teams guard that, and if that's kind of the trend and what teams do, or maybe it was just the Warriors. I wish that they were playing someone else tonight, because we're just going to see the same schemes or maybe a little different, but I'm just intrigued to see how all the teams in the league guard the Kings. based on the matchups.
When you look at those offensive numbers, Will, what is that? So, all right, Will, is one game they all played together. Like I got it, limited minutes, but I think the thing that we kind of I don't want to say we harped on, we really talked a lot about yesterday was they couldn't hit from 3-point range.
Yeah.
And, they didn't even take the volume of 3-point shots that they normally take. But when we just kind of narrow it down to the main cast there in the first half, they had a lead with the Golden State Warriors hitting, I think, 15 threes in that first half. The Kings had hit, I think it was like 4. That's a pretty massive discrepancy for a team that went into halftime with the lead. What does that tell us about the way that this offense might run this year? If anything, was that an anomaly?
No, I don't think it is. I think it's not going to be that drastic. But if you look at the mid-range shots versus their 3-point shots on Wednesday, they shot 18 field goals from the mid-range. For reference, last year they shot 8.8 per game. That was 26th in the league. So obviously, bringing in DeRozan, you're going to see that number go up. I think with Sabonis being more comfortable and Keegan being more comfortable in the mid-range, they'll probably take more of those shots as well. So that 3-point number, the shots have to come from somewhere. And I think it's just going to be that 3-point shot isn't taken as much. But I'm not taking too much away from it because we didn't have Herter or Lyles, who those are two guys who the majority of their shots, I feel like, are going to be from beyond the arc. Whereas the role players that played kind of in their place, I don't think that that's any strengths of anyone coming off the bench right now other than Monk. But if you look at like Mason Jones, I know he can make it from 3. He shot 2 of 4 from beyond the arc. That's good. But like I know Isaac Jones, he shot 2. Jalen McDaniels, he shot 4. I don't know if that's something you want every game. But I think it was more of a personnel thing combined with the new addition of DeRozan. But it really stood out how different their shot distribution was on Wednesday compared to last season. Their season low for threes last year was 29. So like 27 is extremely low for this team. I think Mike Brown was talking either after or the day after about how he wants to get it up a little more to where they were last year. But it'll take some time, I think, for it to even out and kind of get a flow between the two shots.
I do wonder, though, if that's going to be a little bit of a change in style of play.
Yeah.
Last year, like you said, they averaged, or the low, was 29. They probably, off the top of my head, they probably averaged like 35 or something like that.
I think they were at 39.8.
39. No,
like 3 points.
The attempts, 39 a night.
I think so. I'll double check.
Yeah, that's a lot. But I would expect that number to go down, because you have a guy now in DeMar DeRozan who he lives in the mid-range, but he also can live at the line too. Yeah. So you're not as reliant on the 3-point shot for your offense. You've got two guys at the very least that can get to the mid-range, get to the paint, and score. And to be honest with you, it's a little bit more. I like them getting up the 3-point shot. I like them, the stat of hitting 12 or 15, all this other stuff. But it's a little more reliable. It's a little better way to live when you don't have to live by that 3 for your offense, and you are able to create shots in different ways. And I think we'll see that 39 attempt number probably go down, probably more so to 35, 34, something like that.
Yeah, and they were at 39.3 last year. If they dropped to like 36, for reference, the Rockets were at 12th in the league at 36.1. So somewhere in that range, you'll still be in the top half of the league. I get a little nervous if they don't take as many threes just because math 2 is less than 3. And we see it with teams like the Suns and the Lakers, like both very good 2-point shooting teams, but it gets really hard to keep up with the teams that shoot and make a lot of threes. So it's just one of those things where you have to take the shots where you have the opportunity inside, but even if you're hitting them at like a 50% clip. It's sometimes just maths, and you're going to have to shoot. Like you said, Damian, with the Warriors making so many threes and them still making up is really kind of an anomaly going into halftime.
And so I understand the math aspect of it. Like the numbers don't lie in that situation, but wouldn't that work on the flip side where
damn shame.
like if if you are unbelievably efficient at the two, shooting twos as well as threes, wouldn't you need a performance like the Warriors had to keep up with the Kings? Think about it, like they went, would they make 15 first half threes and they were
Yeah, I
down
think so.
in the first half? So like they were shooting almost damn near felt like exclusively threes, and that's what kept them in the game, but they were also hitting at a abnormal pace. So that's why I say, like, if the Kings are as good as I think they could be, with the mid range, getting to the bucket, getting to the foul line, it could be the onus could be on the other teams where they can't keep up with them, even if they are shooting threes, because they'd have to make 15 and a half to even keep up with the fact that these guys are hitting 65% of their mid range shots.
Which would be a wild number to hit at.
That'd
be nuts.
Will, what did the first few minutes of Domas and DeMar together tell you?
Oh man, just how good of basketball players, just instinctual basketball players they are. Like that's what this team seems to be made up of, is just high IQ fundamental basketball players who are so good in a multitude of ways. I think that's Monty's type, is he loves players who can contribute in multiple ways. And to see them come together so seamlessly, I think one of our questions was, how will they start off slow with you're adding such a large piece of the puzzle in DeRozan, but seeing how quickly they looked great together, I think is the main takeaway for me. And I don't expect them to start slow for the season. Like, I think that they'll be just fine to kind of get going right off the jump.
I agree. What did you see from De'Aaron Fox? Everybody, kind of saw that, felt like he was just letting the game come to him. He still was able to get his shots up, still got his buckets, but he looked like somebody that was real comfortable with how things were operating. And I think that's just kind of him by nature. And I think he'll continue that type of fluidity in that offense. But what did you see from De'Aaron?
I loved his off-ball movement, especially that one play where he did a little backdoor cut. I think it was off the twirl action. I'm trying to learn all these terms. It's tough. There's a lot. But the one backdoor cut where he had, like, to me, it's like, can you get Fox easy buckets? And I think that'll be a lot easier this year. And if he, with his speed, can become a elite or lethal off-ball cutter with both Sabonis and DeRozan to pass him the ball, that's kind of what stood out to me, was how much he was off the ball. But I didn't even realize he had 11 points and took a team high 10 field goals. Like, it didn't feel like he took the most shots. He looked really smooth. I thought I know James and Kyle kind of talked about how it felt he was on cruise control. And I agree. And I think that's totally fine. Like, that's not in a bad way. It's just life should theoretically be a lot easier for Fox. And that's what it looked like to me.
I think we feel like De'Aaron's on cruise control if he doesn't hit hyperspeed several times during a game. And I don't think he felt the need to do that at any point in the first half, nor did the opportunity present itself. But you talk about De'Aaron and the amount of shots that he gets. Domas, we just talked about. DeMar, we just talked about. Of course, you got Malik coming off the bench. He's getting his shots as well. Haven't even mentioned Keegan Murray yet. But you tweeted about the importance of Keon Ellis and why him in the starting lineup makes so much sense.
Yeah, so if you look at the numbers of Keon, he only had 2 points, but he had 4 assists, 3 rebounds, 1 offensive, and a steal. And I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but his net rating was...
I got him for you.
Nice.
21.9, which, as you noted, is really high.
Yep.
His usage rate, 5.7, which, as you noted, is really low.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what you want from from a fifth starter with this group. Is you don't want someone who will just kind of disappear and not impact the game. I think we can all think of a name that might have happened to last year. But Keon doesn't need to score. He doesn't need the ball. He will find ways to impact the game and contribute to winning. And that's exactly what we saw in the first half. I know some people were saying, like, oh, it's just a preseason game. You can't use these numbers for half a game. But it's more just the concept. And that shows the type of player that Keon is and how well he fits in with his group. I think he had a usage rate of like 12% last year, which is, again, that's pretty low. That's not as low as 5. But just him continuing to do the little things that it takes to fill out the roster and fill out that starting group. That's why I love him in the starting lineup so much over Herter.
I do too, man. I do too, and I think it's an easy call if you ask me, because I look at what Keon brings to the table, like you just broke down, and what Herter could potentially bring off the bench as both being pluses. Like I understand how it comes off as like a knock on Kevin Herter. I don't look at it so much as that. I look at it as a way to strengthen the team, strengthen the overall team. And I think Kevin Herter could be extremely vital to what the Kings can do coming off the bench with his skill set and what he could bring to the table. And just like maybe a little less responsibility, coming off the bench as well, man. I think it's, I don't know. I'm not Mike Brown. I'm not, in those meetings and in the locker room, but it seems like a simple decision to start Keon and have Kevin coming off the bench, if even if they're both healthy.
Yeah, and the duo of Monk and Herter off the bench is just like, I posed the question a while ago, like, who's the best? Where would they rank as a bench duo in the league? And pretty high. I think a lot of people threw out DiVincenzo and Naz Reid. That was before the trade or after. But I think they are kind of a top tier bench duo as well. But bringing in two players of the caliber of Monk and Herter is such a luxury, where you have the great scoring from them, and then to surround that with the defensive pieces of McLaughlin and Len, and then Lyles kind of does a little bit of everything. Like, I really like the well-rounded aspect of the lineups with the way they're set up with Keon starting.
Great stuff, Will. The good news is we'll get more Will Z stats tonight as Mike tipped off to us that we should see the starters play into the second half tonight, at least into the third quarter. So we'll get a little bit more of this core group.
Real quick, I wanted to ask Will one more thing on the once again on the flip side of the ball. RIP flip side.
Oh,
the Kings giving up the 3-point shot.
Not great.
You know what I'm gonna ask you. You know where I'm always looking. Was it a crazy amount of just wide open looks for the Warriors that led to them hitting all those threes, or were the Kings potentially kind of guarding them relatively well, and the Warriors were just lights out? Either way, it's got to get better, but it does kind of matter if they're just like not able to defend the three and giving up wide open looks. That doesn't bode well. But sometimes you can have a night where you're just kind of, the team is just hot. Like you're able to close out, but they're making everything. What did that kind of look like?
Well, I wish I could tell you. They do not have that as a preseason stat, unfortunately.
Ooh.
I know. So everyone go yell at NBA.com in the stats website. Now, I don't know.
I'm sending a complaint. I'm asking to see their manager.
I'm always so frustrated with the preseason. The box score or the NBA. If anyone wants to look at stats during game, just go to NBA.com. It's the best. Best place to see.
Will says that, and I'll just go to NBA. I don't know how to navigate the way Will Z does. Like
find the game
numbers, the categories. Like I want to know what they shot in the first half and contested shots, and I go there and it's I don't even know. I have no idea like what's going on.
But there's just little things that they don't have for the preseason. But I wish I could tell you. We'll have to go with the eye test. I wasn't watching the defense on those enough to give you a good answer.
Or Will's going to be out there with like a measuring tape on the TV, like, oh, that looks like, how does that convert? Like,
yeah, you could create a scale.
We're gonna
equals. Yeah.
We're gonna call that a contested 3.
Yeah,
because I know Kenny's gonna ask me about this, so I've got to be ready.
Yeah, I was surprised I didn't think about
8 hours to watch the game tonight. Well, we appreciate you, man. We're excited Kings basketball is back, and we get to talk to you more often.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on.
That's man, Will Z right there. Thanks, buddy.